Okay, it says we're live.
Okay, great.
So
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to be with you today.
It's so wonderful to be with you. So we're just giving it a little moment because there is a lag time sometimes, and we want to make sure everyone on the Jaishree Yoga page knows that it's happening. In fact, I'll go over to the Facebook Jaishree Yoga page, and I'll share it as well.
And I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for it to show up on your page. I don't see it quite yet, but
see, that's important. That means that way we know people can see it. Here we go. I see. Do I see it? Yes, I see it.
Do you want to open that up and see if you see it?
If you scroll down.
If anybody's watching, we're trying to figure out technology because that's all we have now.
Could you guys give us a comment if you're watching and let us know if you can see us? That'd be awesome.
Say, I am trying to see you. So I'm gonna post that.
Okay.
Do you see that?
I see that. Yes, I see that. Yeah, I'm trying to see you. So we are. So what it is you are on the Jaishree Yoga page, and that is my personal page. So we just want to make sure that people know.
Okay. Well, on the Jaishree. All right. So I'm clicking on Jaishree Yoga.
Kalanidhi, are you working on that?
Okay, there I am.
Our tech man.
Create post.
Good. Allison found it. It's taking a minute. Awesome. Yeah, so a lot of folks are having a hard time on the timeline.
On your timeline.
Not on my personal timeline. Because a lot of folks are used to getting live from Jaishree Dow-Spielman, the personal page, and this is Shamli trying to join us.
Okay.
Let's see. Ooh. It's taking people a moment.
Okay, I'm patient. I can see you now. Okay, I can see me even. All right, so I'm gonna. Do I click on share that?
Yes, you can share. You share that.
Share to your story. I suppose, or share now to the public. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share that to the public.
Yes.
Okay, here I am. Here we are.
Great. Well, I know a lot of people are trying to come on in and join. I am really just super excited to welcome you, Dr. Michael Geary, aka Budar Das Prabhu. I might call you Budar Das sometime. You're good.
Welcome to do that.
Thank you. Dr. Geary, for those of us who are just joining us, is an incredible human being. He is, how long have you been, would we say like 40 years you've been doing this or something? Long time, since you were like 20, you've been mentoring, or not to call out your age, but we all have an age.
That's self-evident, by the way, here. It's getting close to 40 years. You could say comfortably 30, 35 years. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Well, Dr. Geary is a life coach, mentor, Vedic wisdom keeper, doctor of philosophy. He works with millionaires, and he works with folks who will give him a cake as payment, because he is the very much real deal, powerful astrologer and teacher. And for many years now, we have been honored to have him on the faculty of our Soul Culture Yoga School. I proudly nabbed him, I would say, first before he became a nationally certified yoga teacher for all the yoga RYT and yoga trainings. So you can actually ask him to be part of your yoga training if you'd like. He, along with some amazing doctors, scientists, philosophers, and again, wisdom holders, has cultivated for quite a long time the question, what do wisdom paths have to help us? And how to move forward with the incredible force of technology. And now, of course, and he is a mentor, and he has been Kalanidhi Das and my personal mentor for many years, as well as our beloved friend and God family. And we are just so incredibly humbled and excited to have you as part of our world. We call on you in times of need. The astrology, the Vedic astrology you offer, along with your incredible way to adapt and bridge information in this age is really powerful. And you support us in so many ways. So thank you for being here. And today we're going to be talking about the Dharma Diamond. So we are in obviously unprecedented times. In some ways, you could say that we are in a time of war. And what I mean by that is that the war, as you spoke so eloquently the other day, is a conflict of territory. And what is the territory? It's our mind. It's our consciousness. We need to be really strong and protect our consciousness these days, because we're being asked to up level, right, in this empowered way. And so we could see this time, as I like to see it, as a transformation, and this a time to up level. And that's always been the work I've done. And it's the community we held at Sanctuary and through the Soul Culture World. But now it's really very personal, and most people are in absolute terror and confusion. So how in these times are we to more than navigate our consciousness, but protect our consciousness in times of crisis transformation, and how we will use the Dharma Diamond to do that? So I will pass it on to you, my friend.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. You know what? I need my microphone over here. Sorry, just to make sure you can hear me. Well, there was a lot in there, and thank you for the very long drum roll to introduce me. We can't.
Come on.
I can't. Yes, I can. Thank you for that. Very dramatic. I mean, I'm here to have some fun with everybody, and hopefully lighten our spirits a bit, given everything that's happening in the world around us. It might be useful to give a little bit of a backstory on how we got here with the Dharma Diamond, and what it is, and where it really comes from. And in order to understand that, we have to go back to our last big crisis, which was 2007, as the financial storm clouds were appearing on the horizon. It looked like the world was headed to a pretty big financial and banking industry meltdown. Just prior to that, I sent out an alert to a lot of the people that I work with. The late Professor Bert Mulder in Holland at the Den Haag University. Persons like Simon Haas, the author of the Book of Dharma, and a number of other people, spiritual practitioners, business people, designers, scholars, and thinkers. And I invited them to our farm in the Cotswolds in the West Country of England to talk about three things. And the first one was, where's the world going to go in the future? So we did some crystal ball gazing, and we asked questions about what we thought the future held for us in areas like technology and philosophy and religion and science and ecology and so on. And then we had another question. Does anything exist in the world's wisdom traditions that can help us deal with the challenges ahead? Because back then we had a sense of of course, the environmental crisis was really gaining pace then, what to speak of where it is now. And, the financial world was, coming to its knees. So we wanted to know, does anything exist in the world's wisdom traditions that can help us? Because we're living in a world of increased complexity, more and more. And now you could say perhaps we're at the most complex place that we've been at for the last 100 or more years, right? So then the third question that we explored as a group was, if anything does exist in the world's wisdom traditions that can help us capitalize on the opportunities ahead, but also minimize the challenges that we're faced with, how do we have to tell that story? How do we have to access that wisdom and present it in a language that people in the modern world can understand and use for immediate benefit, for practical benefit, right? So we weren't looking at wisdom traditions from the point of view of, let's become philosophers, let's sit and become culture practitioners, and we're going to become American Indians and wear feathered headdresses and whatever, or become shamans and have a rattle, or even Hare Krishnas with our symbols or whatever it is. What we wanted to do was kind of move beyond that and understand what lies deeply within these traditions that gives them power, that animates them. So that began a process of about a 15-year process, really. We had a number of symposia that we invited people, like I've already mentioned, to come and work with us. And out of a great deal of effort, research and study and dialogue, we crafted the idea of the Dharma Diamond, because we looked at all the world's wisdom traditions and we said, what are those big ideas? What are those universal principles that actually we can understand and use to make the world a better place? What do we need in order to make really good choices in our lives? How can we stop doing things that create adverse effects in our environment? And what I mean by adverse effects, I'll give you a very simple example. My uncle was a good example of this. He was an early pioneer in the development of plastics. And so back then, everyone thought, well, plastics, let's create plastics. And what do we want to do? We want to create plastics in a way where they don't degrade. Right. They never go away. Am I with you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Huh?
Plastics.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you design plastics, everyone thought, let's make it last forever. But making something that lasts forever in a universe where nothing lasts forever seems to be a bad design choice.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
A good idea.
So now we have vast pockets of plastic islands in the Pacific, and we're worried about, well, how to manage that? How do we deal with that problem?
Right.
So when I mean adverse effects, most of us mean well, most of us have good intentions, but if we're not guided by ideas that have been proven, if we're not guided by principles that can help us make good choices, right? Yeah. Then we're running the risk of making the mistakes that we've made, which is created the world that we're living in now.
Right.
Right. So that's a little bit of a backstory to say that what the Dharma Diamond is a model of thinking. It's a model of decision making. It's a way of living which is based on proven principles that have been discovered by great sages, yogis, masters and philosophers from a long time ago. And these ideas have been proven over thousands of years of application. Right? So our presentation of Dharma is based on the idea that it has 4 principles that we'll talk about a little bit later. And the idea behind it is that using the Dharma Diamond can empower your life, can create clarity in your life, so that the choices that you make get you to the place you want to be. So that's a little bit of a nutshell. Now, what does that have to do with consciousness? Well, how do we protect our consciousness? What does that really mean? I think you put up a slide that said that war equals a conflicted territory, and that what is that territory? Now that territory is our mind. Well, everybody knows that the nature of war is propaganda, right? I mean, Churchill said that the first victim or the first casualty of war is truth, right? So the idea that war is attacking the way that we think is a very, very old game, right? But right now, you could almost look at the world and say that the territory which is under threat is the mental peace that each of us really should be enjoying.
Right.
Like we have a very prosperous material society, and yet most of us are walking around, many of us are walking around with no mental peace. Right. So then how do you do that? How do you create the mental peace which makes life worth living? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, that there's not really any happiness in life without mental peace. So if your mind is disturbed, you can't be at ease in your life. So the Dharma Diamond is a way of looking at things to guide you in some very simple principles to create the kind of life that will help you have mental peace and inner satisfaction. So when we talk about protecting consciousness, we're talking about really understanding that the development of our consciousness is the most important thing. Our greatest asset is what we're aware of, how we think, how we look at the world. I said to a group of people that I was speaking to recently, what is the most valuable thing that you own? And everybody raised, my house or my car or my bank balance, my portfolio, my family, whatever it is, what is the thing that they hold most dear? And I said, yeah, those things are all really well and important, but the most important thing is actually your mind,
right?
How you're thinking. That's the thing that needs protecting, and especially you could argue that's the thing that needs protecting now.
Beautiful.
Right.
So
that's my little intro in answer to your question. Protecting consciousness in crisis with the Dharma Diamond, and we can unpack that a little more.
Beautiful. Yeah. So you brought up some incredible eternal points, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us, and Allison Spinney, who you've worked with in the past and was one of our soul culture teachers, asked, I don't know if you can see these questions, but she was asking specifically about the plastics and if it was who it was. And Allison points out a solution that became a problem. Isn't that so often what happens? Most of the world has good intentions, as you say. It's so true. It sounds like what you're talking about is actual science. I say that because a lot of people throw around the word science for very, very new ideas that have not necessarily been proven to a T. And when you talk about these ancient wisdom practices that are thousands of years old, it really brings it back to understanding what science means to different people. And of course, we could talk about that more. You also brought up this word propaganda, which, you say most people know that war is about, collecting the collective minds and collective fear and propaganda. But I don't know how much that history is being taught yet. And I feel like on the other side of this experience, maybe the education system, the science system, everything is going to shift, hopefully. Hopefully it's about science and consciousness. But I also love so far that you keep saying a protective. It makes me think of like a chia bubble or layer. You know how there's like all that juicy stuff around the brain. We need that juicy protective barrier. It's like the blood-brain barrier. All the bad stuff is going through it. But it should protect. But when we inject all this crap into our bodies that can go through the blood-brain barrier, we don't have that protective layer. So maybe what you're going to be sharing with us is the way to fortify that protective layer and to not let in the crap, for lack of a better word.
Well, it's great to be interviewed by you, because you bring up as many interesting points as hopefully I brought up earlier, and there's a lot to comment on what you've said. The idea of science, and what is science, and what is wisdom, and how do we get to a place of real wisdom. But what I'd like to do is maybe just respond by reminding everybody of the story of Arjuna and Krishna in the battle of Kuruchetra. So you have a warrior prince who is not just a warrior prince, but he's a mystic yogi. So if you go to the movies or you read a book and you read Lord of the Rings, you read about all these mystic warriors that have all of these great abilities that are unbelievable powers, using the power of their mind and other things, natural forces. So in the Mahabharata, which is where the Bhagavad Gita appears as a chapter, Arjuna is a mystic warrior. He has immense power, immense influence. He's a very highly evolved person. And yet he's on the battlefield and he's losing his way. His mind is disturbed. He doesn't know what to do. He's confronted with a very, very difficult and painful challenge ahead of him. He has to fight against his family. He has to fight against his gurus, his beloved teachers, the people that have protected him, who have all come under the sway of somebody who is operating with a great deal of self-interest. That would be Duryodhana. So he's having to look at this battle, which is about to begin, and he asks Krishna to pull his chariot up. Krishna agrees to drive his chariot. He asks him to pull the chariot up into between the two armies, and he looks around him and he loses it. He loses his composure. He says it. He says, "I've lost all composure because of weakness. My hand is trembling. My lips are quivering. I'm perspiring. I'm confused. I don't really know what to do." And we, always can take a great deal of wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita, because it's really meant to be taken literally. My guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, wrote the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and he emphasized the idea that you read it as it is and you learn a great deal from it in that way. But it also has a possibility of a metaphor, because it relates to the battlefield of our own lives and the challenges that we're all facing and the confusion that we all face. And so we can look around us and we can become disturbed by, the threat of coronavirus or the environment or all of the different things that we're being challenged by. And I myself feel those challenges. I'm 65 plus, diabetic type 1, so I'm in a high risk category. I can't afford to get it, right? So I'm right in the danger zone with a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So how do I respond to it? How do I choose to act in response to that kind of threat. And what Krishna tells Arjuna right in the beginning, after Arjuna says, I don't know what to do, I take you as my teacher, tell me what's the best way for me to act. Krishna says, well, the reason you're confused is because you're basing your view of reality on everything external. Mm-hmm. You're basing your view of reality on your physical body, on a set of circumstances that are by nature going to be temporary. Arguably, they're illusory. And they're certainly the type of circumstances that cause everybody a lot of pain. So Krishna tells Arjuna, well, we need to go to a higher mind. If you want to deal with the challenges of life, you have to raise up in your consciousness to a level that transcends the material circumstances that we're dealing with, so that you can find that mental peace by connecting with your inner soul, right? So in the Gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that we're pure spiritual beings having a material experience. So it's like something like going to a movie and watching a movie happening, and we start identifying with the characters in the movie, that we are the characters in the movie, and we're feeling all the pain of those characters. So in a sense, you could say that when we're talking about the protection of consciousness, we have to first begin with the idea that why is consciousness so important? It's not just peace of mind, it's clarity of thinking, and it gives us a way of understanding how to deal with the challenges that we're looking at.
I've got to tell you, when you started talking about it, this light thing happened around your glasses in your third eye. So you lit up, like literally.
Can you shine that light back on my eyes again? Just like, thank you.
Guys, no, but it's all real. That's beautiful. I mean, and it's interesting because I know you, speaking about Vedic wisdom specifically, even though there are many wisdom traditions, today is Ram's birthday, and Ram and Sita represent Dharma, and so auspicious. So many of our beloved other teachers and were on sharing today, and so I feel super grateful that we're offering something. But this concept, tell us more about how we're supposed to, I mean, we know about yoga, we know about pranayama, and a lot of people are on sharing that, but that's still body. It's still body stuff too. So transcending while you're still got one foot here and one foot in another realm, or while your body is here, but your consciousness can go to a more eternal realm. How to reconcile that. I think most folks are battling, especially. Well,
I mean, that's why I brought up the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita begins, Dharma Kshetre Kuruchetra. So it begins with the word Dharma and ends with the word Dharma. Sarva Dharman Parityaja. So, so the Bhagavad Gita is all about Dharma. And what is Dharma? Dharma means, well, how to live. How to live in a way that is harmonious and sustainable, how to live in a way that creates prosperity, how to live in a way where there's a great deal of mutuality so that my existence in the world doesn't impinge on yours. So that's the principle. That's kind of the idea of Dharma. It comes from the root word dri, which means to hold or sustain. And if we look at Dharma and we try to understand how to live it, we can easily go to the Bhagavad Gita, which is kind of a manual for achieving what you're talking about, right? How to live in the world. Yes, we can do yoga. We can, develop a very powerful, healthy, lightsome body. We can get into all kinds of poses. We can actually achieve some mental peace through that and through pranayama. But if we remain on the bodily platform, if we don't use that yoga practice as a means to quiet the consciousness of the mind so that the consciousness opens up to these higher dimensions, to these higher realms of possibility, then we remain on the physical level. So in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, in the 2nd chapter, Krishna lays out all the big ideas in the 2nd chapter. You're not the body, you're a spiritual being, and how to go about realizing that. In the 3rd chapter, he talks about karma yoga. So living in the world, but not being in the world. So taking what you do in the world and offering that in a mood of divine service. So that begins a process of practice. I'm practicing not being a materially minded person, but I'm practicing being a spiritual person. How do I dovetail what I do in the world and actually make it completely transcendental? And every chapter that follows on from the Bhagavad Gita actually unpacks that idea to the point where we become realized in our true spiritual identity. So Dharma, maybe this is probably a good place to talk about the 4 principles of Dharma, right? Because the 4 principles of Dharma are, they sound simple. I remember we presented them to the CEO of a large corporation, and we talked about them. And so, for instance, the first one is truth. And he said, "Oh, yes, well, I'm truthful. I always tell the truth, and I always am honest with my people and my family and my colleagues." But the kind of truth that we're talking about when we look at Dharma is a deeper truth. It's a pursuit of truth. What is our truth? What is our real identity? What are we really doing here? What is our meaningful purpose? What is the nature of human life? So the 4 principles of Dharma, which you can see in this little slide in front of you, are truth, respect, purity, and effort. Simple words, but with a lot of deep meaning. Simple, but not simplistic. So when you have all 4 of these principles in your life working fully, you achieve a state of sustainability. You achieve a state of harmony. And the course that I give, I'm going to be talking to people about this online. So we're going to have some discussion groups. I'm going to invite everyone to. You can visit my website at some point. That'll come up on the screen, I'm sure. And you can participate in that. And you can also participate in an online course that we're offering, as well as workshops that we're offering to explore how these 4 principles work in your life. So truth is about you, your identity, your meaningful purpose in life. And what are you supposed to do in order to find that meaningful purpose? How can you realize the best of your potential in this life? Then you have your relationships. And that's the blue circle down at the bottom, which is respect. Your relationships, our relationships, are a big and important part of our lives. We can't really find out who we are until we actually, or you can almost say, find the people that we need to be in relationship with. There's a lot of deep meaning in all of these. I'm just going to sketch it out really quickly so you can have a sense of the model. Purity represents our ideals. What do we hold to be the best that we can be? What are the values that guide us in making the choices that we make in our lives? That's what purity represents. And then effort. What is the passion that we have for living the life that we want to live? So when you take all 4 of these principles together, they're consequent. So, you begin with trying to find your truth. You find your truth in relationships with other people. You find out how to craft your own values and your own principles so that you live a better quality of life. And then you apply yourself passionately to realizing all of that. So this is I'm just really very simply sketching out. I mean, I hope it's simple because, we give a lot of information in our courses, and we open this up to people so that they can understand it and access it in a very, very deep way. So if you put up that other graphic for me, that would be great. So, the effort that we apply in terms of living these principles, right? When they become really full in our lives, they overlap, they affect each other. They're dynamic principles. And when they're really fully operational in our lives, we achieve a state of sustainability and harmony.
Yes.
So that's a quick overview. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. You know, I know, you know, I've been working with folks for many years doing private work and soul mapping mentorship. And on the private side, there's that, and then there's the Soul Culture Yoga School, which is going to have to evolve, of course, and it's meant to. And I've always used your, you know, the Dharma code, especially in private work, and it's so great. I mean, we're only going to be able to touch upon it here, and I highly recommend everyone work with you. Always, I always do, and your readings, you know, because astrology is this amazing kind of fixed landscape, which to look at the very unfixed movability of a person's life. But I think that the truth and the effort, the respect, purity map is just such an accessible, pragmatic, and profound tool. And it's something that can cross any culture, any religiosity, any language, actually. And so, yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing. And the goal is always sustainability, which, of course, we have obviously fallen out of sustainability in society. So talking about the Dharma Diamond and really working with this connection of how, tell us a little bit about, you know, I always say there's a hole in my bucket if I'm not really in all four places. I need to be in my Satya, my truth, and I have to have respect and Ahimsa, we call it, right? Nonviolence with the world. And then where is the Saucha, the purity of my intention and my way of being? And then there's the Tapasya and the effort, and that they all go together. That being an awesome person is a great thing, being a good person. And a lot of people say, you know, there's the movement of saying that this is all ascension and that we're all moving forward. And a lot of people go a lot deeper into ideas and thoughts around where this is coming from. But from a Vedic perspective, can you just maybe share a little bit in regards to Earth, Mother Earth, sustainability, and how these principles can help us come back to a place of cohesiveness?
Yeah, absolutely. These principles are so fundamental. You could almost call them the components of life itself. Everything that exists has a dharma. In one of our exercises, in one of our symposia, we had some sannyasis in the room, and which are monks, for those of you who don't know what that is. And we asked the question, does a broom have dharma? And the initial reaction was, no, a broom doesn't have dharma, because we tend to think of dharma as something that is an expression of a living thing. But actually, everything has a dharma. Water has a dharma, earth has a dharma, fire has a dharma, air has a dharma. And these components are so fundamental to everything that exists that when they're not present, that's when there's an imbalance in the individual or the thing or the entity. They're so fundamental that in Indian iconography and in Vedic culture, it's represented by the four legs of the bull. So the four legs of Dharma are represented by the four legs of the bull. And the bull is essential to the agrarian culture of ancient India. So you know, a bull is not much use, let's say, to a farmer if he only has three legs.
Yeah.
He needs 4 legs, just like you need 4 legs of a table, right? So how to use these principles to get back to creating some balance in our life. This is what we explore in our discussions and in our workshops. So when we're thinking about the principle of truth, we have to ask ourselves, well, what is the meaning of our life and how can I live it fully? And part of that means also I need to live my life fully, but I also need to live my life in a way which is respectful to other people.
Right.
Right? And respect, ahimsa, nonviolence, means I'm nonviolent, I'm respectful to everything. So I'm respectful to the animals. I don't want to kill them. I don't want to eat them. I don't need to eat them. Mm-hmm. Actually, eating the animals is a cause of the current problem, you could say. I've read some articles written by some scientists who point out that the coronavirus is a byproduct of the deforestation of great rainforests, and these viruses jump out of these ancient forests into the human beings that inhabit them.
Wow.
So like, in other words, when you look at Dharma tells us something very, very simple, that there is a natural order to everything. And if we're aware of that natural order and we harmonize with that natural order sustains us.
Wow.
Where we neglect it, then there's a consequence to it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we break the natural law, we can expect to be treated by nature as outlaws. And again, there's a consequence to that. So, in a very, very simple way, you could say, well, to live Dharma and to realign myself to the natural order, I have to have a sense of what my purpose as a human being is. Mm-hmm. I have to understand who I am and what my role in the world is. That's a choice that I make for myself. But in being that, I have to live that in a way where I'm respectful of you. I give you space to be you. I honor you for who you really are. I try to work with you in a harmonious way. I don't try to take from you that which doesn't belong to me, and so on. And so how am I able to do that? Well, I'm only able to do that when I have some standards to live by. Right. So those standards that I live by are the information that I receive from my teachers.
This is you're talking about the purity part.
I'm talking about the purity principle, right? So, how do when I say purity, I don't mean chemical purity. I mean the integrity of self, right? I mean, like, really being fully me, and really being fully me in relationship to you. Yeah. So what are the values that guide me in doing that? Am I going to be guided by an understanding that helps me be careful and gentle in my dealings? That's just one example of a kind of a standard that we might want to apply. We might, for instance, want to apply a purity standard to, like the choices that we make in terms of our relationship to the environment. Do I want to take more from the environment than I give back? Mm-hmm. In the Rig Veda, there's the Prithvi Shukta, which says is a prayer. It's the most ancient scripture in the planet, and it's the first ecological treatise on the planet. And the prayer is, "Oh, dear Mother Earth, you give me so much. You give me all the gifts of your great abundance. Let me not hurt you or wound you or kill you by piercing you too deeply from the things that I take from you." So like, if I'm having a principle of purity and guiding me in terms of what I do in the world, I'm going to be guided by higher knowledge that I receive from spiritual teachers that help me make good choices. And then, of course, even then, it's still not enough. I can know who I am. I can know the kind of relationship I want. I can know the kind of standards I want to live by. but then I have to do the hard work to live by them. And that's tapasya, which means austerity. I actually have to work at it. I have to be passionate about what I want to do in my life.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
That's a very simple overview. I worry that I'm not really giving a deep enough or a full enough idea of what it is. I'm only giving the headlines of it. But I can tell you that the more you study it, the more you'll see it in the world around you.
Yes. This is what absolutely vital what you say, because we all know that the reason yoga is called a practice, a spiritual practice, a consciousness practice, it's also can be a physical practice. It has layers. And right now we're still, as human beings, we are releasing, like sloughing off the layers that we have accumulated for not only this life, our narrative, our programming, how we were raised, but from lifetimes. And whether we know it or not, the science that you share, the astrology, the grahas, the pull of the planets, this is all already real and true. So it almost doesn't matter at this point whether we want to believe it or not. It is happening and it is real. So to step into the change of consciousness, we're being given that opportunity right now, and it takes practice. So they'll have to come to your classes to go deeper and to learn more.
Well, it's an interesting point you bring up, because one of the things that I tell people is that, these principles, they apply to everyone, whether we like it or not, or whether we know it or not.
Right.
So just like gravity, right? You wouldn't dare step out of the door of a plane. You would know, oh, there's a danger if I step out, if I go out the window. Right. David Hume, the English philosopher, says that we can debate the idea of gravity, but at the end of the conversation, I will leave by the door and not by the window. Right. So these laws exist for us, and if we become aware of them, I call them laws, but they're not. That sounds a little strict, perhaps. Well, they are strict in some ways, but they're the rules of life, let's say.
Yes.
And if we align to these rules of life, just like if we align to the rules of a game, we can have fun with the game.
Right.
If we don't follow the rules, we don't have fun with the game.
Right. Right. So, and I always have so much fun with you. I'm going to bring up now something as we move towards the end of the hour, but we could go on forever and there's no time. I just wanted to give you a little bit of gold bling, because why not? Info age. We've been in the information age for quite a long time, and we're in Kali Yuga. They call it the Iron Age, and a lot of people speak about moving into the Golden Age, even though we're going to be in Kali Yuga for a very, very long time. Is there more? We are saturated. You're saturated with information. We are in the age of fake news, which is a real thing. We're being given tons of illusion and Maya right into our face. And like everyone who's listening to this right now is meant to, everyone who even hears the recording is meant to, you are under shelter. I am under shelter. It is of a, higher level of awakening and consciousness if we found this. But for most of us, we're still being bombarded. And is it like you were talking about with the plastics, your uncle, like creating something like technology turning into technocracy, like it's a scary time. So how to deal with that and choosing like right now, because even though it takes years and years to get a practice and to change our consciousness and our body and our health, what about the opportunity right now to do it in the immediate? And also to filter the information that is, as we've said, propaganda, or maybe coming from a place of a different agenda versus the eternal scientific wisdom practices. What to do, how to do.
What to do, yeah. Well, I think
and keep it light.
I will. I think a simple answer is what source of information do you trust? What is the most reliable information? Is the information which is reliable the transient, temporary information of, a news feed? Right? Is it the collective multi-billions of pages of opinion that I read and I skim through and I pick and choose and I'm affected consciously or unconsciously by them? Probably not.
Probably not.
Right? But if we really want to, manage our way through all of this information, we should have a benchmark. We should have a way to judge the quality of that information. And that's what our argument with our Living Wisdom Foundation is, that the ancient wisdom of the planet, okay, we see it as the best that humanity has to offer itself. Right. And so, but are we listening to that wisdom? Are we probing that wisdom? Are we seeking to apply that wisdom in the choices that we make? So let me just end with one thing. I mean, I came across, and I can't quote a reference off the top of my head, but I read somewhere that the amount of information that we process on a daily basis now is the amount of information that was processed by the average person in their whole lifetime in the 18th century. And we're doing that in one day.
Wow.
So, and there's so much information coming at us, and a great deal of that information, suggests that we have to become expert in all of these different fields. Are we good? Are we now expert in understanding the development of vaccines? Are we expert in understanding, viruses or, political machinations surrounding how to manage collective fear and so on and so on? So there's a lot which is being asked of us. And we shouldn't be surprised if we feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
So like one of the things that you said in one of your previous broadcasts was, if you simplify your use of these multimedia devices and you make sure that you give time every day in your practice to developing a deep inner consciousness, to developing a quality of consciousness which is very much connected to your spiritual identity. That's the best way to have clarity in terms of determining what is true from what is not true. So, yeah. The Kali Yuga is also the golden Kali Yuga. So there's a lot going on, and there always has been in this age. But because of the access to spirituality and the kind of teachers which are available to us now, we can make great spiritual advancement. So that's the easy pathway.
Amen.
That's the easy pathway.
Forward, direct. I always say that this train is going, right? We're like this, I call it the bliss train or whatever. When things are so full of crisis, we really can feel that taste of beauty and bliss and perfection. It's in our memories because we miss people so much right now because we're not in contact physically with people. And you can either get on the train and go up, or you can get on the train and go down. And I bet, as to what you say, that everyone in their house has a book of wisdom somewhere. They probably have somewhere. It's probably a Bhagavad Gita or Puranas or Upanishads or something in the house. I mean, people have their Christian Bibles, the Quran, various works of gurus and principal key players. But as you say, it's actually a process. So if we could all just like attach to something eternal. Like
when I was born, you would be lucky to walk into a bookstore and find any of those books in a bookstore.
right.
You'd have to walk into an academic bookstore maybe to find them. Now, thanks to the internet, they're available. I mean, all you have to do is do a search, Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, internet.
You know, and there it is. So there we do have an alternative.
Yeah.
But it's a choice we make in how we're approaching the use of our consciousness.
Yes.
Are we going to saturate our consciousness with this lower stuff?
Yes.
Or are we going to associate with the higher stuff, the stuff that actually feeds our soul?
Okay.
And that's that's where we achieve a quality of life. That's when we become happy. That's when we achieve peace of mind. Because just like Arjuna, who's standing on the battle of Kuruchetra, and all these people are aggressing him around him, thanks to the instructions of Krishna, he finds inner peace. And he does his duty as a warrior, but all the while he's doing it, he's fixed his mind on Krishna. And he's achieved that real yogic inner peace. So he's living in the world, doing a difficult job, but he's transcended the world by associating his consciousness with the highest possible source. That's available to you. It's available to everybody here.
Amen.
Amen. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Well, I'm going to take this quick moment to do what I've been told to do, which is also share that I wrote a new book, and Buddhara is part of that. I also, Discover Your Bliss was 2013, and Soul Ascension was written on January 1st, 2020, and that's what it was. It was, you know, Discover Your Bliss is about writing a love letter to your soul and connecting, and then Soul Ascension was the wake up that's going to be the shake up of 2020, and it's about what you just said. All of us can tap in right now, and you don't have to be a genius or a scholar or even a yogi to get there. So thank you for reminding us of that, Dr. Geary, of our ability to not only tap in, but use the internet right now. You can go to michaelgeary.co.uk and learn more about the Dharma model. You can also work with Dr. Geary, as I have and Kala has. I mean, Kala was working with you religiously and regularly many years ago so that he could tap into, oh gosh, so much. You're a father also, a husband, you are devotee, you have...
No, grandfather too.
Grandfather too. And you and Lalita have an amazing clan that you're running. Are you going to come in and say hi? Come in, you guys. You guys, let's have the whole family saying hi.
Come on. You can see
she's also beautifully pictured and amazing. You so British. We say something so we can hear your accent. Haribol.
Haribol. There you are.
I'm not sure Haribol has an English accent.
No.
We're so happy that you guys are available, and in this time is really an amazing reminder because you're in Bath, you're in England, and you have been in your farm, in your little bhakti farm, but you've been accessible through the phone and through internet and Skype for a long time. So I'm just so grateful for you, and I'm grateful for you being here. Does anyone have any other questions that they want to share? I think we covered, I tried to read everyone's questions and respond. Kelly says, just had been thinking about Michael Geary's calendar reading she got years ago. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, we have been, she said, how's Malmesbury?
Malmesbury, it's locked down.
It's locked down.
we go for walks and everybody's supposed to stay inside and keep their head down.
Yeah. Well, you are an awesome spirit and you're an awesome soul. And also your story is really amazing, which you share more about on your website and with people. And you've been through the dark night of the soul, if you will, as well. And I do believe that all the wisdom keepers and the teachers that are worth their salt these days have some understanding of pain. I don't think it's possible to get through this. And me and Lalita share the migraine journey. Sure, hopefully we're doing better because we're in an awesome place. But it's very real. And so thank you for being out and bright and light. Narayan, you want to say hi?
Can I leave you with just two quick comments?
It's all you now.
Okay. Well, listen, everybody. If you want to make contact with me, if you'd like to participate in some dialogue discussions, which I'm going to be doing on Zoom, so questions and answers, talking about Dharma, talking about life, talking about whatever you want to talk about, I'm going to be announcing that on my website and in my weekly blog, which if you sign into my website and download my free PDF on the Dharma Diamond, I'll put you on the mailing list and I'll send it out a notice so that you can participate. And I really welcome you to participate. And the last thing is that here's an interesting meditation to take away with you. One of the principles of Dharma, of course, is purity. We've talked a little bit about it. And purity in Vedic thinking begins with sound. So by using things like kirtan, prayer, mantra chanting, expression of good intention, blessings, blessing each other, every time you do that, you raise the quality, the energetic quality of the earth. And that offers healing to the earth. And the powerful the mantra, the powerful the prayer, the more healing is achieved. And so you can think we're all spread out all over the world. I'm in Malmesbury. I think Kelly is where she's in Massachusetts, I think, right? Yeah. So, we're all over the place in different places. But if each of us in our little lockdown locations, we raise our voice, we express our heart to the divine, then healing can be achieved. And that's a dharmic principle. So nice meditation, I think.
So everyone should join us for live kirtans at 8 p.m.
Yeah. Marblehead. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
What we've been doing. And any good kirtan, there's so much. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely sharing with you and lovely being in your living room. Sorry.
We're in. And I like being in the yoga room. I just have to put the Wi-Fi on in here, but it's nice to be with you in your office and in your world.
Well, lots of best wishes to everybody, and look forward to talking with you again somewhere, somehow, sometime.
Hope so. What an honor. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. And do share this class because the world deserves it. Thank you, Dr. Geary.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Very cool.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.